But thanks for joining us, everybody, tonight for this session of Loyola Connect Live. I'm Jim Dickinson with Career Services, and I'm thrilled to introduce you all to Bobby Trosset from the class of 2017. Since Bobby graduated just a few years ago, he's been really involved with Loyola as an alumni volunteer, including 2 years of service on the Board of Trustees. And he's worked with NBC Sports in Washington, involved in TV production, 2 Olympic Games at this point. Is that right, Bobby?
That's right.
So really incredible. And those during your student years as well, in terms of getting that experience. And it just in August of 2019 became named as the morning anchor for WBAL and 98 Rock, which are the flagship stations of the Baltimore Ravens. So just an incredible start to a sports broadcasting and sports media career. And we're thrilled to have you here, Bobby, to share a little bit about what's been happening in your career path and a little bit of your journey to get there, and connect you with our current students. So Bobby, thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Jim. Very warm welcome to Colleen and Penelope and your entire team. Of course, the Heavlers, got to shout out Charlie and Eileen, who can't be here tonight with us. And we certainly want to send out our condolences to the Lepresto family as well while I'm at it. But I'm just as thrilled as you guys are in Career Services to be involved. And I wish, and hopefully, knock on wood, we'll be able to do this soon. But I wish it was in person, and I just want to first start, before I even introduce myself, just give some major props to you, the students, not only for being involved tonight, but how far you've already come in the middle of this. I try to put myself in your shoes, being that I have some younger siblings that are in college as well. And I think it's impossible. Only you guys know what this last year has been like. So kudos to you for having made it this far already. And tell you what, if some of you underclassmen, I think you can do college if you can do it in this environment. So thanks for being here, and hopefully you can take something out of this. So like Jim said, though, I'm Bobby Trosset. I'm a 2017 grad of Loyola, originally from upstate New York, and I just wanted to go south more than anything else. And it was something that I look back at and feel very, very grateful that I landed there. It's funny. My cousin at the time of my prep and my narrowing down process was at Loyola, and she's from Madison, Connecticut. And she really allowed me to kind of see her in a different setting, a different year all throughout her time. My family and I would go down to Myrtle Beach to vacation every single spring. And on the way back, we'd stop with her. And they'd crash in a hotel, or they'd crash with some of our family in Baltimore. I crashed with her. So I got to see Loyola from sort of the outside looking in, or inside looking out, whatever you want to call it. And that's how I got to know it. And when I got a package that was good for my family and a good opportunity, I took it and ran. And I think about this time in 2013, I guess. I was just finishing up my I guess you guys are just starting, if any of you are, no matter what year you are, you're just starting your second semester of that year. And I think about, where I was and what was going on in the academic year all the time. It flushes back, especially when you end up working in your college town, which I am right now. So currently working for WBAL and 98 Rock, which Jim mentioned off the top. That's the radio flagship stations of the Baltimore Ravens. If you're into football, you know that they had a good year, but not quite good enough for their standards, having lost to the Bills in the divisional round playoff game. So it's officially off season. I got too much time on my hands, so that's why I'm here with you. But the journey to get there was essentially my first big break, is what they call it, not only in communication and broadcasting, but really in every business. And it was an interesting road. Throughout Loyola, I was always that guy who wanted to totally exhaust the resources and opportunities and mentorships that were all there for me. And that's what I tried to do, sometimes to a fault. Sometimes I just burnt myself out. But I came in with a mission. I came in knowing that I wanted to dive into broadcasting as a career. And luckily there were many stops along the way during my 4 years there that helped me get to where I am now. I started off by getting involved in student government, and from there just took that as sort of the building block, and really got involved with the admission department and started doing tours. Somebody in broadcasting, you better be able to give a tour. And you ended up meeting just a ton of different people through those opportunities. And I ended up doing that really all 4 years, aside from my junior year, which I spent abroad in Madrid, Spain, which was an awesome opportunity. And if you're an underclassman and you're thinking about that chance once life gets back to normal, I can't tip my cap enough to Loyola's abroad program. Maybe some of you have already had that experience. It's something that, it's cliche, but it definitely changed some things for me. And to this day, I always want to, in a non-pandemic year, I want to have travel as a component. And that's something that Jim talked about in my intro as well. I've been lucky enough to make travel sort of a component of work, which is interesting because in the places that I've worked at, that I've traveled to, you're not necessarily getting to know that location as you would if it wasn't work related, but it's still worth it, and you still find a way to capitalize on your time off. So I have had the privilege of working the last 2 Olympics, one of which was during my summer between junior and senior year, and that was in Rio de Janeiro down in Brazil. That was an unbelievable experience. Michael Phelps, his last Olympics ever, so we think. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back. Those of you who don't know, he's a Baltimore native too, so being able to cover him, being able to be involved in that was pretty special. And I took that opportunity and graduated in 2017 and morphed that into a role with NBC Sports Washington down in DC. They hired me as a production assistant. And if you know anything about TV, if you know anything about broadcasting, that is the low of lows. That is essentially, you're not running coffee, but you are doing, scripts in the control room. You're doing graphics. You're, doing things that are very small but necessary that go into the broadcast that you watch on an everyday television show. So from there, I was really able to sort of grind a little bit there and find a way to get more opportunities there. And next thing you know, a year in, I was getting some TV reps and podcasting for the Washington Nationals, which is the baseball team down in DC. So it was a good opportunity, but at the same time, I knew that I kind of went a little bit high in terms of market size. DC is a top 10 market. Baltimore, I'm talking about for TV markets. And if you aren't familiar with that, Baltimore comes in at mid-20s. So I was shooting high, but I wanted to see if I could make it. And if I waited, I'm of the belief that I'd like to think everything would have been fine and I would have continued to advance. But there was an opportunity that came calling here, and that's with BAL and with 98 Rock. And I truly feel this way. I don't think I would have been able to have been in line for this chance if it weren't for a lot of the connections that I made through Loyola. I'll name a couple of them out. Brett Hollander at the time worked for WBAL. He's since moved on to actually work for the Orioles. He's a part of the radio team, but he's somebody that calls, and I think called now. I don't think he's going to do it this season because of his Orioles role, but he was somebody who broadcast men's lacrosse games at Loyola. And I was actually his sideline reporter for a little while, and we connected. We got close. Next thing you know, he's calling and knocking on my door about this opportunity at WBAL years after we had first met. So that's kind of a cool little afterthought of mine about how did I get my foot in the door there? He wasn't the only one either. So, hey, if you're interested in broadcasting, and if you're not, it's all about really, especially in the communication umbrella, it's all about the networking. It's all about the informational calls that you put together. I was just telling my brother TJ the other day, he's a junior at Northeastern up in Boston, and he's starting to work on different potential internships and whatnot for the summer. I said, you should make it a goal once a week for the rest of the semester to conduct or coordinate an informational call. And what I mean by that is like reach out to someone at some place. For example, he's in finance. Boston Private Bank is where he's currently, his co-op. That's what they call it up there at Northeastern. And I said, hey, why don't you reach out to someone from that side of the business and try to set up one call per week? That's what I did my last 2 years, really my senior year. And what I did was after each one of those calls or each one of those emails, if I never ended up calling them, I would set aside their contact information on the notes app on my iPhone and on my iPad. And I would just write their title, their name, and if I had a phone number and if I had an email. And that's something to this day that I literally have. I don't use it these days that often because I'm relatively secure right now professionally. But when I'm ready for the next opportunity, I'm ready to move on, you better believe I'm going to go back and check that out. So again, I don't think that's advice that's would just tie into broadcasting. I think whatever you want, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all about, what you're venturing into and what you're interested in and what you think you might be interested in, because I think that goes without saying. That can go in any single industry. It doesn't just go down to broadcasting. So anyway, a year and a half in, here we are. It's interesting because Baltimore was always my college town, and that was special. And when I got the opportunity and the job offer here, it turned into my professional town. And I've sort of seen myself grow into a young man here, whether I like it or not. And I'm joining you from Fells Point, right down the road, if some of you are on campus or maybe you're home. And it's turned into a different city for me. I wanted to make sure that if I did come back to Baltimore, that I allowed myself to have sort of a new beginning. And I didn't jump back into my college student habits. Not that they were bad or poor, but that I needed to shoot a little bit higher and that I needed to be more disciplined. And I found that life down in Fells Point. So just because I only bring that up because some people are so adamant that they want to leave their college town for their first professional job. This isn't my first, it's my second, but same thing, right? You get what I'm saying. Be open to the fact that even though Baltimore is considered small-timore, if you find an opportunity here whenever you're set to graduate and it's the right one and you feel comfortable, then consider taking it. It's Fells Point feels like a different world than it does 15 minutes north. And it's been a great opportunity for me. Some of you may know my sister, Tori. She's a 2019 Loyola graduate, and she's right upstairs. We live in same address, different units, different front doors. But she's someone who is in the finance world. So she went through Sullinger, and we have two different experiences, but both definitely very appreciative of what Loyola has given us the opportunity to do in our respective careers. And we're hoping that the youngest Trosset, Troublemaker John, up in upstate New York, is going to commit in a few weeks. So we will see. But, I've just been really fortunate. And I don't know, maybe some of you can relate to this. I'm not done yet, and I'm not satisfied. One of my favorite phrases is the relentless pursuit. And the acronym there that I always use is TRP, to shorten it up. And that's something that's driven me since my first year when I walked in there and started doing the core curriculum and just started to really take a close look at what I could see myself doing. And, I look at Loyola as something that shaped me and something that I want to, and the career, I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up career services, but I want to stay involved. I was really had the privilege of being involved on the trustee board over the last 2 years and serving as the young alum. And unfortunately, as you guys know, the spring semester was essentially taken away. So we went virtual, and it was kind of a bittersweet ending to the 2-year term. But it's just, you see the university in a different way, in a very professional way. Sometimes it's difficult to see it in that way, But I think what I took from that 2-year term will go a long way. And again, even if I wasn't asked to be involved in the board, I'd still want to be involved with the university here moving forward. So I hope that wherever you are in your steps, that you have similar feelings to Loyola. And if you do right now, then man, those feelings must be real, because this has been far from normal. This has been abnormal over the last calendar year. So that's my spiel. I'm sure I missed a few things, but feel free to ask when our comment section and question form opens up.
Yeah, Bobby, thank you so much. And I do want to recognize also just thank you for your service on the board, especially through such a tumultuous time, and providing your perspective and leadership. As a volunteer leader for the university, it was what a time to serve as the young alum trustee. I want to just ask a quick follow up on something you said about when you moved back to Baltimore, talking about your habits and kind of getting into this a little bit more of a disciplined approach. As you look at your job today, I'm wondering if you can walk us through just a quick view of a day in the life or a week in the life when you're in season, because I know it's a pretty unique and demanding kind of a schedule. I would love for you to just give us a taste of what it looks like.
Yeah, I knew I missed a couple things, and how could I forget the day to day, right? It's been so long since we've had a normal day to day. That's probably why I had that lapse. But yeah, so basically, we'll say it in a non-pandemic year. How about that? And then I'll also tell you what it's like over the last year or so, doing broadcasts from literally right behind me in my kitchen. But yeah, so the Ravens are in season. For you football fans, training camp starts at the end of the summer. The regular season starts up at the beginning of September, and the season wraps, depending on how long. If you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last weekend. If you're other teams, within the last few weeks, somewhere in January. So the Ravens ended, as I told you, mid-January. So basically, all games typically are played on Sundays. But again, if you're a fan, that there's also games on Monday night and Thursday. And this year, the Ravens played on, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday too. It was a very bizarre season for obvious reasons. So I'll take you through a game day. I'm the host of Ravens Gameday Insider, which is our pregame show. And we come on at 10 a.m. for a 1:00 game. So it's a 3+ hour long pregame show. We have special guests. We have players on with us. We have coaches, and callers can also text in or call in and share some thoughts. And it ends up being a pretty popular show for fans to either sort of, let their guard down a little bit based on the news story of that week. But that's all on the radio. So I steer that. The game starts. I immediately go into, if it's a home game, I'm at the stadium and I'm in the press box. The pregame show goes on at the Miller Lite Beer Garden tent, if any of you are familiar with M&T Bank Stadium. That's an awesome showing for an opportunity for us to interact with the fans and whatnot. But once halftime comes around, I'm the lead, also solo host. I got a couple of co-hosts on the pregame show, but I'm solo for halftime. And once the game starts, it's actually streamed out to, I think, 50+ stations up and down the East Coast. So that was something I didn't have the opportunity to do my first year. That was somewhat of a small promotion for me my second year. And it was great exposure and a good challenge for me. It goes about 10 to 15 minutes, so not too long. But when you're on there yourself and it's only you and the producer, it can get a little nerve-wracking. But once you have more reps under your belt, it's just like anything else, like riding a bicycle. But once the post-game show ends, once the game ends itself, the post-game show begins. And that literally goes from 4:00 or whenever the game ends up until 8:00. And again, this is on Sunday. So don't forget about the turnaround on Monday morning, because we start at 5 a.m. So that's only for a 1:00 game. Now, if there's an 8:15 primetime game on NBC or Fox or any of the national networks, it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround. So my in-season schedule, long story short, very demanding, but very rewarding. And I've been able to build up an audience on my digital and social media platforms where I have a Ravens-centric presence, if you will. That's been pretty cool. and also the morning shows, 98 Rock and WBAL specifically, have also aided that. Look, social media, not to get on too much of a tangent here, but social media, whether you're getting into broadcasting or whether you're going to be a public figure or you're not going to be, is incredibly crucial. And I feel like it says a lot about who you are. To me, I try to be very active, almost 7 days a week. That can change somewhat and get a little bit more lax in the off season, but that's something that's really important to me, and really something that I focused on during my time at Loyola. Not only sharing content that I was putting out, whether that was through writing, whether that was through on camera, whether that was through potential lives. So I would urge you, if you don't have your social media up to par from like a professionalism standpoint, spruce it up a little bit. Put maybe get a nice photo taken through the Career Center or through Graycom or whoever provides it on campus these days. To me, your brand is your social media. Your social media is your brand. And that's something that no matter if I have WBAL on my social media handle or I have NBC or maybe ESPN one day, to me, it's about what I'm putting on there, and the handle just comes along with it. The handle's not going to always be with you when you move on. So I always try to really focus on the image that I'm building online. And I think that's helped me out in my career thus far. But aside from game days, to get back to the original question, basically just we're on from 5 to 9 a.m. So I have a shift that's sort of backwards from your 9 to 5. We're on from 5 to 9 a.m. And sometimes in a non-pandemic setting, that has me with an alarm clock about 10 times. I have it coming off, and I'm snoozing it from 3:45 to 3:50. So I can get 30 more seconds of sleep. It's so ridiculous. But when you get into your routine, it can get tricky. And that was something I had to consider when I took this job. And who am I kidding? I knew I needed to take this job, so there wasn't much of a consideration. But there's a commitment, and there's a discipline that it takes this. You can't be staying out late with your other young professional friends Sunday through Thursday, let's say, and going out to the bars and hanging out because your alarm is looking a little bit different. So there's some sacrifice that this position and this job has come with, but to me, that wasn't even in my mindset because I know what I'm chasing and I know what it takes commitment-wise to get there. So there has been some TV components as well. Those of you that are familiar with WBAL, that it's not only just a radio station, it's also our local NBC affiliate here as well, Channel 11. So it's been tricky staying in the loop reps-wise with TV because I have been at home since March, but they have me involved, and I do have somewhat of a small role in TV, and that's my eventual ultimate goal, to be the voice of a professional sports team on TV. So we'll see where that goes. But again, the last 11 months have been very challenging, as you guys can attest to. March 12th, when all this shook out and everything went down, we were all sent home, and we were sent technology that will allow each of us, and I'm talking about each broadcaster, there's at least 30, 40 people, I would imagine. We were all sent home with remote equipment. And so right behind me, I have my makeshift Bobby studio where I can go live every single morning and at night whenever the opportunities present themselves. And all I have to literally do it. Hopefully I don't disconnect anything doing this, but this is the Uber mic that it happens with. This is what makes the engine go. And that's how I'm chatting with you guys right now. I hope I sound okay. But so that's kind of what the job entails. There's some travel to it. This helmet up here was a trip that I was able to take in December of 2019, working the Army-Navy game up in Philadelphia, Lincoln Financial Field, if any of you are familiar with that. So, and I hope to maybe throw my name in if this summer happens at the Tokyo Olympics out in Japan. So I love travel. Definitely knew that before going abroad, but the Madrid trip definitely reaffirmed that. So that is my long-winded response to what my days are like in this crazy world we're living in.
It's great, Bobby. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot, right? Like you're juggling the radio, the TV, sometimes the travel involved, those early mornings. So it's just a fascinating look into your career. And I just want to say thank you for giving this initial insight just into what you've been up to and how you got there. I think it's been really fascinating, and looking forward to hearing the responses of our students to it. So again, Bobby, thank you so much for providing your remarks and insights tonight.
Thanks for having me.